you kidding me?
What's up, everyone? Today we're going to talk about some really crazy stuff. We have a lot of FOMO surrounding this Championship Lorcana card. We're going to talk about the next Lorcana drop, some very interesting and crazy Pokemon card sales, and then wrap it up with a small, I would say, soapbox, which is going to ruffle some feathers. And that's cool, right? Because constructive criticism, I'm fine with that. You can agree or disagree, and that's okay. And that's what I want, right? Drop a comment. That's what this channel's for. We can talk about how you feel, how you really feel, and that's fine. But we're going to go ahead and start it off with this right here. This is the Stitch Rockstar Inklands Lorcana Championship card, which was given out, held at LGS Championships, right? So if they held a tournament at a local LGS, you could potentially win this card. And from my understanding, the championship was talked about a few months ago, and as it got closer, drew near, right? This card surfaced, and then the card started to hit Facebook, I would say just about a day or two ago. And this card, when it first came out, people were trying to crack you over the head, bleed your wallet dry, and charge you like $1,500 for this. And there's also like a mat. You can get like a tournament mat as well if they got the mat from the tournament, right? So from my understanding, if Lorcana endorses the LGS and they can carry Lorcana and run a tournament, stuff like that, they were provided 4 of these cards right here. So they were provided 4 Stitch Rockstars, and then 4 people from the LGS would win one of these cards. So the card carries a very, very high rarity, but from what I understand so far is that this card would be printed a shit ton. A lot of these cards will be printed. And you can see right now that the market, the undercutters, it is happening very, very quickly, where it spiraled down all the way to $650 from the first day sale of $1,500 roughly. So do not jump in and rush to buy this card, because Lorcana is hot, right? It is hot, and a lot of people are spending crazy money and getting burned. And this card is not done cooling off yet. It's not done, and we don't know how much of it's printed. But the next thing in action is going to happen, which I promise you, it happens every single time. You know, somebody's going to buy like 3, 4, 5 of these. They're going to rush them off the PSA, be the first on the market to put them out there, sell them for some crazy astronomical price, and some crazy person is going to buy them because they want to be the first person with the first flashy thing, thinking they're the only one that's going to have a population of 1 PSA 10. But that's not the truth. That's not the truth at all, because there's going to be thousands of these. So once they hit the market, they flood the market, it's going to come down just like the Van Gogh promo for, you know, Pokemon. So just keep that in mind. We don't know how rare this is yet, but I do know that, you know, people have said, hey, like 20 LGSs around me were going to carry the championship, which means just in someone's local area, there would be at least 80 of this card right here circulating around them. This card was also carried at tournaments inside of France and Germany. So this card will also be in German and French. This card is going to be printed a lot. And there will be much more like it, right? I think Lorcana is doing a lot of things right. They're growing the fan base. The cards look awesome. The artists are awesome. Everything looks to be going very well for Lorcana. Ravensburger is a German company. I live in Germany, and when I go to the local stores like Smith's Toys, they have huge aisles just filled with Ravensburger product. And that's one thing that gives me a peace of mind about Lorcana, because I know that Ravensburger, while smaller than Disney, of course, but is a very successful, established company who's been making board games for years that have been very, very successful, and definitely knows what they are doing. Now, still, as a TCG, we don't have a long-term roadmap for this yet. Now, Disney on the box or not, it does not mean that this is impenetrable. It does not mean that this will exist no matter what, right? They still have to make the right moves, and we still don't know what's going to happen in 3 to 5 years plus. So bear that in mind. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. The 4th set is about to drop. You have Ursula's Return. So this is the 4th set on pre-sale right now on TCG Player. You have Ursula's Return booster box going for roughly $140.80. Now, if you would like to buy a case, they're $573.89. Now, right now, we don't see anything except for, you know, commons, uncommons, and rares on here. We see prices as high as $24. and as low as like $3. So the artwork is nice. That's one thing they're doing right. The art looks really good. As we move on to the second page right here, this is all we're going to see right now, just 6 more cards. So we don't have a whole lot released just yet. And the most expensive one on here is going to be Ariel Sonic Warrior at $24, and then we have Mirabelle at $23. So some very nice cards. Who is excited for Ursula's return, the 4th set? Let me know. Let's move on to one more thing. Lorcana base that I would like to talk about is the first chapter booster box. So right now you can still buy this box for $224.50. And we see over the last 6 months, this thing has went from all the way down to about $155 near Christmas, and has spiked recently from March 26th to April 1st to $305.39, and has came back down, right? Starting to come back down to earth, about $227.96, and now it's starting to move sideways, which is not a bad thing, right? Now we're waiting to see if it's going to go down more or if it's going to start going back up. So what I can say, at least short term, what I think, right? This is my opinion, and do not take this as financial advice, but common sense to me is typically when the cards, the hit cards, which there's a lot in this set, this is like the Evolving Skies of Lorcana. And I say that because there's like 12 enchantments in here, and all of them go for several $100s. And if they're graded 10s, some are $600, $800, $2,000, $3,000, which is more than the Umbreon inside of Evolving Skies. So right now, the cards are very, very hot. There's a lot of very expensive cards inside of the first chapter, which means for the box to be $224 and the biggest card right now is hovering over $2,000, that tells me, I feel that the box is undervalued. Now, we don't know where it's going to be, like I said, in the next few years. So I'm not saying to hold this long term. Now, would it hurt to put a first chapter in the stash and tuck it away? No, it would not, right? If you can afford to buy one and tuck it away, and you want to take a chance on it, it could be a multi-$1,000 box in the future. We don't know. It could also go to $50. But with the cards as high as they are, at least for the short term, and the trajectory and the hype right now that Lorcana and the steam it has, I do not see why this box would not go up. Even the reprint, right? So to know if you have a first print, you have to look on the bottom of the box and see if it was early 2023, and you know that you have a first print box. But right now, the issue of Lorcana is that they're not putting designators or distinguishers on their cards to show if they're first or second print. So once you crack the packs open, it's kind of hard to tell unless you have some errors on the cards or some color differences where you can distinguish the two. But for the boxes right now, with it still sealed, you can tell for the first chapters. So just make sure you're paying attention to those differences, because collectors do care about that. There's collectors who really want the first box, just like you had with OP01 for One Piece, right? That box just shot up, and while you can find a second print box, the first box was going for a crazy amount because you could tell that it was the first print. So just pay attention to that. That's all I have to say about Lorcana. Let's go ahead and move on to some very interesting Pokemon sales. I only have 2. There's 2 I want to talk about, and the first one really shocked me. I know some of you have probably seen this, right? So you have the beautiful and stunning Koro Comics Mew. This came out of a comic book a long time ago, right? You could basically open up the comic and then you would pull this card out. And this card was known for like horrible centering. We say Japanese comes out in such good condition and print quality. This was not. This was pure shit. But I mean, the hollow pattern and just the look of the Shining Mew was unmatched. Like today, this card is still one of my favorite, and a lot of people just love this card. And PSA 10 is roughly like $3,200. It's very, very expensive. Even raw, you're looking at like $150, $200. So the card is not cheap. But what someone did, right? They sold a sun faded Koro Mew. This is sun faded. This is not like this, right? So it did not come like this. And I've seen this a couple of times. Today is the first time I'm actually covering. Usually they authenticate them. They don't really grade them, because when you have a sun faded card or something to that effect, even a sketch or a signed card, you really just want to say authentic, because people, either for collection or they know they can sell it for more, because you're not putting a grade on the card to distinguish if it's in good condition or not. but this one surprisingly still got a PSA 7, which is still rather high for a card that is considered damaged. This is sun faded, which they put in the description right here, but it does not say it on the label. Now what's crazy about this one is that it still looks really stunning. It turned to be, completely blue. The whole card is blue now, and you see the difference. Fully purple, fully blue. Now the reason why I bring it up, because it still went for $600+. So that's crazy that there's still a demand. People love error cards, miscut cards and stuff like that, but you can literally take a Pokemon card, put it in the sun, damage it, say it looks cool, encapsulate it, and then sell it for $600 some. Now, do I think it's dumb? Yeah, I do think it's kind of dumb. And would I do it? No, I probably wouldn't damage my cards. But this one right here, for some reason, just really catches my attention. And if I were to get a sun-faded card, it might just be this one. Because the blue one, almost I feel as if it should have been printed, because it gives the purple one a run for its money. So drop a comment and let me know what y'all think. Do you agree with me, or am I crazy? Now I'm going to show y'all something crazy. I'm going to show you another one right here. This one I do not like. So this one is a Charizard, right? So this one, a Japanese base 1996 Charizard, same card, right? And they both sold on 14 April on PWCC for $690. The difference is one is sun faded and one is not. And one looks like complete shit. It's just black and white, which some of you might like, right? We all have different tastes. But a little bit odd to me that this one sold for $690. And like I said, some people just authenticate them, just like this one is. It just says authentic, whereas the one on the left was graded a mint 9. So a mint 9 went for $690, and one that could be fucked on the back, I can't really see the back right now, could be horrible condition and damaged, sun damaged, went for the same exact price. That's crazy. That's really crazy to me. So what do y'all think about this one? Do you like this one? Would you pick up a sun faded damaged Charizard? Let me know. Now the last thing I want to cover briefly is selling and buying. I'm not going to talk about it for long. This might ruffle some feathers, get some people pissed, but it's something that kind of bothers me, right? And I have a lot of friends who do this. I'm sure a lot of you do. And a lot of my friends are sellers. Now, I do distinguish scalpers and flippers and investors, and all of them different. I know some people lump them into the same category. I don't see it like that, right? Like, I understand that if you own an LGS or you sell yourself, right, you have to buy with the intent to have a markup to make a profit. The point of a business is to make a profit, right? If I am selling cards with the intent to make a profit, then I have to get cards cheaper than what I am going to sell them for, hopefully. So it just became a huge trend on the trading and buying side, right, for people to reach out and give crazy percentages. Hey, I'll buy your stuff at 60%. Shit, I've seen 50%, 70%. I think when you start to get to like 80%, it's very respectable. Now, hear me out, right? There's two different things to this, right? I think that if you have a bunch of bulk cards, a bunch of cheap graded cards, you had cards that didn't grade as high as you thought, and they're not in demand, and you can't really get rid of them, and it's your prerogative, it's your cards, right? If you want to go out there and sell them for 40%, that's on you, right? That's you. People need quick cash. Pawn shops been around forever. I get it. You go into your LGS, they're going to give you 60%. No one gets mad at the LGS. They just go ahead and do it because they want trade credit or they want money. They want money fast. But one thing that irks me, right, is here's an example. So I put about 6 cards on Facebook, and I do this pretty often. And I do probably more trading these days since I'm like international right now. It's kind of hard for me to sell on a regular basis. But I do a lot of trading into higher cards. And I'm very specific, right? I have my feedback and everything. I put my cards on there. I had a 276 Charizard from the magazine. I had a Sightseer, a Lily from Ultra Prism, a lot of really good stuff, some Poncho, EVs, and I'm very specific. I said, hey, don't hit me with the 60 to 80% shit. Like, I'm not doing it, right? Like, if I'm gonna trade grails or high-end or mid-tier cards, then I expect the same in return. So if you're trying to sell stuff, don't even hit me up. And then the first thing I got was a guy who was international and he hit me up and he's like, hey, I saw that you were trying to get rid of your cards. First of all, I said trade, right? He said, I saw you were trying to sell your cards. And I was like, what are you talking about? So he sent me my cards and he was like, yeah, I want to see if you can send them international. And, you pay GS, the fees, the seller fees, and then you ship them to me international at like 70%. And I was like, dude, fuck out of here. Like, you want me to sell you mid to high end cards at 70%, eat the seller fee on PayPal, and then ship them to you internationally to Canada? Fuck no. Like, I would never do that. I would never ever do that. And I do it for some people on very specific circumstances. One example would be right now I want a 2016 Pikachu Festa and a 10 that's like a $9,000, $10,000, $11,000 card. So obviously there's something that I really, really want. And I may have to take a loss to get there. And I understand that, right? Instead of paying $10,000, I may have to bring down the value to like 80%, 75% to get that card. And I might be okay doing it. Basically, transitioning to like what I'm trying to talk about, right? I promise there's a point, is that when you have stuff like Feebay, you have eBay that everyone talks shit about, they still give, 85 to about 87% for your cards. And it's a massive market, it's a free market, and it has a big user base, which you can sell your cards really fast, possibly above what the last comp went for, maybe average out, eat the fee, and move on and still make roughly 85 to 87% of your asking price. So when the whole argument where people come up and say, well, why can I buy your card, minus 15 or 20% or at 70% because eBay charges fees anyway? And I'm like, dude, if I wanted to sell my fucking cards on eBay, I would have went to eBay. But you're not eBay. And like, I went out there and put in the work and I did all the writing and took the photos and everything and put my shit on Facebook or some random group that I joined to put it out there and deal with 20 complete fucking idiots. And then the rest of the people may be bots and like random scammers. And I have to sift through feedback and I have to sift through, fucking coin photos and everything. And then work these deals with people who flake. And you want me to go at eBay, after fees? Fuck no, dude. Because here's the thing, right? Like, there was a time where, if I asked that money for the card, I may negotiate and that's it. But now people are getting to the point of 60% and like, hey, eBay, man, like eBay. I'm like, dude, fucking 60%? eBay is like 87 and they're talking shit about eBay. And they have protection and all this other shit. And then when you look at like other platforms like Veriswap and Alt, it's even cheaper. Alt is expanding right now, and I believe they charge like 5%, and they just sold that fucking $300,000 first edition Charizard. So their user base is expanding very rapidly, and it's cheaper than eBay, where you end up getting like 90-95% profit, and you can sell your card. So I just don't agree with that whole argument, and not to offend nobody out there, because like I know I have friends who do it, and I've had people reach out to me, and I'm not hating on your grind. Like, I get it, right? But there has to be a better way, man. Because, like, it's bleeding into trading too, right? And it's one thing for me to reach out to somebody for a trade and they're like, hey, I'm trading in my favorite 80%. But it's another thing when people are starting to reach out to you for your shit and telling you that they're trading in their favorite 80%. It's like, dude, you reached out to me. You reached out to me. And my sentiment is that if I feel that we both have high-end cards, it should be a fair, one-for-one swap. And really, you have to use your brain and say, hey, maybe I want to trade for this card because I feel that it's more liquid. It might be worth the same, but I can off this card a lot quicker, or it has potential value to go up in price, like the modern alternate arts from like Sword and Shield right now. And that's what I'm trading for right now because they still have a lot of upside, right? And people thought I was crazy for getting rid of like a first edition Lugia or a first edition Shining Gyarados for modern alts. And I'm like, dude, the prices have been baked into vintage for years. Can it go up? Of course it can. But can it go up on a modern alternate art more right now? Yes. because Sword and Shield is getting older, and the collectors of today are not the dinosaurs from the 90s, right? Not every little 5-year-old kid growing up right now is gonna want a fucking first edition Charizard from 1990 something. Like, it's just not going to be always the case because they're in love with what they see today, right? So these alternate arts from Sword and Shield to me are grails. Like, they're going to carry a lot. They were printed more, they were taken better care of, but still, like, the demand for them outweighs the supply, and that's what's crazy. So, off my soapbox, let me know what y'all think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? It doesn't matter. I don't fucking care. Just let me know. But I appreciate it, man. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back soon with another video, and I'll see y'all later. Out.